Anybody there? Can you hear me? Anybody in the room? This is Larry. Is there anybody in the room? This is Larry. Anybody in the room there? This is Larry.
Hi, Larry.
I can hear you, Mayor.
Oh, thank you.
He's already started. Yeah. You recording, Paul? Yeah.
Okay. Did you get that note, Cheryl? I'm pretty sure it's recording.
Yes.
We've called the 76 Entertainment Community Improvement District meeting order. It's fifth. Billy, can you do prayer for us, please?
I'd be happy to. Father, we come to you today. Thanksgiving. Thank you for this. You being there for all of us. Thank you again for the city. Thank you for the community. Thank you for the stakeholder. And more important, just thank you for the guests that comes to Branson to enjoy Branson. Pray you continue to bless Branson as a destination for visitor. And just thank you for the many hard work for the city staff to make this happen. Thank you for the mayor. Thank you for the leadership, the alderman. And we also thank you, especially the engineering department with Mike, Matt, and Cheryl. I know they have been working so hard, right? Every time I stop by the office, they're just trying to make this work. We thank you for the tireless effort that they have made toward make this happen. I know we're in a crossroad. We just pray that you give us the wisdom and direction. And I pray that you do in our midst of our decision. Thank you again for all that you do, love, and ask you that you continue to bless the city. Pray all this in one full name. Amen.
Roll call, Paul, please.
Sure. So Chuck is present. Mike is there. Billy, Alex, I see at the end. The mayor is on. Alderman Williams is on. Who am I missing?
Got Ron.
I'm here.
Brian. Yep.
Great. Everybody have a chance to review the minutes from the June 24th, 2026 meeting? If so, I'd entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Second,
Motion to approve. First by Mike, second by Billy. Any further discussion? All those in favor, say by saying aye.
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 Oh, same sign. Okay. It's passed. Review of the CIP financials. I know we've got those. I know Shirley must to get finance fund. We're really hard to get those to us as much as possible. You want to just give us a rundown?
Yeah, I'll give you a rundown of the financials. So these are as of June. I kind of rushed to get July's done, but there's some interest calculations and everything we do at the end of the month when we get those bank statements. So this is as of June. We've collected $2,704,840 in revenue. We've collected 44.7% of our tax revenue that is budgeted. We are up 1.8% in sales tax revenue over this time last year. Then your expenditures are $101,149 as of June. Are there any questions about these financials?
Anybody have any questions?
Ashley? Allison,
Yes.
did you say we were 1.8% over last year?
Yes.
And what percent in June?
This is as of June. We are 1.8% over the prior year.
Thank you.
the apple, we are mixing some, we're always behind the eight ball because the state, so.
Yeah, we get it 2 months behind, so
So
that,
this is correct, because it's that.
Yeah.
So actually, Brand's missed. Are we up from last year?
yeah, we're up 1.8% over last year.
I'm gonna
As of June.
throw out the same thing I say every time.
Yeah.
Inflation is high.
Yeah.
So really, if you take inflation into play, we're not, we're actually down. Year over year. And I think you have to take into consideration all the different price adjustments that people put in this town. I think if you were to look apples to apples attendance wise, for the city of Branson and what the fashion industries are doing, you're gonna show that you're down compared to last year.
Yeah.
We will actually give our quarterly financials and you'll kind of see that with traffic counts and everything, because we take the traffic count and we compare them to revenue, and so that will be at the next quarterly financials.
Yeah, and I know one big thing that I've been hearing and a lot of people talking about is it could be that attendance are similar, but people are staying 2 days instead of 4 days or.
Okay, excuse me, I think we're getting into the weeds. My question, comparing this time to last year, was based on our budget. Allison, what did we budget for an increase going into 26?
I think we did a 2% increase. I'll have to verify that. I can't remember if we landed on 3, but I think we ended up at 2 to be more conservative.
Okay, so gentlemen, my point is, we budgeted 2%. We're currently at 1.8, regardless of what the inflation figures are. I think the inflation figures factored in is another separate topic.
Understood, just trying to make a statement clarification. Anybody have any other questions on the financials?
Who was it that brought up the inflation issues?
Sorry?
Oh, I just didn't know who brought up the inflation questions.
That was me, Chuck.
Chuck, okay, thank you.
Welcome. If there's no other discussion regarding the CIP financials, discussion no bid project. Or do we want to go to the budget?
Yeah, you can go over the budget real quick.
Yeah, we can go to the budget.
So this is the proposed budget that we're proposing for 2027. So you can see that we have insurance in there. This year's insurance expense was $1,200. Next year we expect it to be $1,500. That's also what we budgeted this year. So we put $1,500 in there for insurance for 2027. Consulting, we always have that number really high in there, but we never expend that much. So I did move that down to a more reasonable amount of $25,000 for 2027's budget. Then you can see the admin fee, the maintenance fee, and then legal services, we kept at $40,000. And then if you want to go to the capital in the next section, That's for the wow factor and the sidewalks. It's not included in the bond. So those are separate. And then moving on to debt service, we have our transfer for our TIF, and then we have our debt service requirement for our bonds for 2027. And then we see a surplus of $1,377,865. The revenue is based on a 2% increase in revenue, and we can go back and make that flat. I did keep interest income flat.
What's the $25,000 consulting?
So that just pays for the website.
$25,000 a year for the website.
I think we come in a little bit under that, per year, but, it's right around that amount, a little bit under 20,000, I think is where we'll come in for 2026.
Chuck, we also discussed starting to update that website. In fact, I thought at our last meeting, we all agreed to start updating it because I think it hasn't been updated since June of last year. So I think that's what those expenses have been set aside for.
Correct, and that was something Ann and city communications director.
Yeah, and the website's updated monthly. It always contains your minutes from this meeting, the meeting schedules, et cetera. So, and new board members were updated to the website. So it hasn't been overhauled, but it has been updated regularly.
I think the biggest thing is going to be the project updates as we sort that. That's the biggest thing that we discussed at the last meeting was weekly updates and how projects move.
Right.
So there isn't currently any money for communications consulting in the 2027 budget. It's just primarily for the website. Or does that include, I guess, the frequent updates that are expected? I just would like clarification on that.
So can I say something? So earlier this year, we received communication from ImageWorks, who is the one that handles the website, and they were 6 months behind in sending us invoices. So as of right now, I've only received 2 invoices this year. So I think they're behind again in invoices.
So you're saying the
And what did they,
$25,000 consulting is for what? Exactly.
It used to be higher than that, if I remember correctly, Allison, it was more like 200,000, correct?
It was 100 and something, a little bit over 100,000 last year, but we've never extended that much. We've only stayed around 20,000 the last 3 years. That's why I moved it down to 25,000 for 2027. But yes, it used to be higher than that.
But
in the 26 budget, we lowered it because in 25 it was even higher than that.
It wasn't specifically just for that, it was for if a consultant needed to be hired for something else.
So last year's $100,000 in the budget. Now it's, for this current year, it's $100,000 in the budget for communications, and next year's $25,000.
So
Consultant.
So we don't have a communication person, basically.
So then if you don't have a communications budget for the CID, who's then expected to communicate?
so
I have an ongoing contract with the 76 CID and I'm paid hourly because there has not been a project and all I've done basically is see to the updates, the minimal updates to the website and attend these meetings. I have not sent a bill this year and don't intend to until that work becomes more meaningful. But I do still have a contract, I believe, that's in place. So I stand ready to do more of that work, and I have a contract to that effect, but it has not been meaningful because the project has not been moving in any meaningful way for a couple of years now.
The point that Alex is
And-
saying, we don't have a budget for communication, CID.
Well, not in the 2027 budget.
Yeah, not like 20%, yeah.
Yeah, 2026, we had $100,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why most of it wasn't used, just because it's not all website. That's, what were their monthly bills? Cheryl, do you remember when you got a couple?
I'll pull them up.
Or if you have them? Those don't vary much. Posting and yeah, and the minor updates they do.
$200.
oh, so say the high end.
so Ann, what's your contractual amount?
It's an hourly amount there.
I was
Space.
asking what Ann's contractual amount was.
I understand that it's time and material is what I'm saying. It's
Yes.
basically an hourly amount, time and material. There is no set contractual amount.
Yeah, right. It's just based on hours. And
Okay,
it's-
So we have $6,000 high end to ImageWorks for hosting and all of that stuff. That's another $19,000 for additional consulting. Right? Are there concerns that we should probably increase that because of the amount of work going associated with the project being in full force?
Well, and I was just thinking, right, if we're looking at the project timeline, you're going from a year to maybe 2 years. Maybe you've had the communications, but I mean, we can always bring this back, right, early 2027. I just wanted to flag the importance of. We gotta change because, yeah.
Yeah, and it's very important.
And you guys get all those bills too, so like if we do go ahead and pad that line like we have in years past, if we just move it down to here, because we haven't spent it the last 2 years. We won't spend that without your guys' knowledge and everything, you'll see all those invoices that come through, so it's not like we're just gonna be, oh, it's there, will be truly for that service, if we wanna go ahead and increase it. You do see a surplus there, right, like it's not like we're trying to figure, don't have a surplus, you have plenty of surplus, and you want to go ahead and say, okay, we're gonna put 50,000 there, or put 150,000 there, like we have years past, just so we have that room in case we need to get a consultant here quickly and everything, we have the budget to do it, because that's the other thing, we can't. Sorry, I'm talking so fast,
Good at it.
it's like, oh, myself, I usually don't do that.
We're also looking at, I think it's gonna do possibly bi-weekly updates, right, on our city website, and so. I think it's so cool in order to hire someone to do pictures, to take, I mean, there's just some really historical parts of this whole project, does. Shovel ready, right, ready to go, and every business is gonna have the opportunity to. Be included in that when it's their part on it, so I think from a historical E-roll type of perspective, I just was curious if anyone's interested, maybe it's an appropriation for this year versus 2027. But to really double down and get the right team in to, do the B-roll, do the video work, do the, some of it's playing defense, right, making sure we're. Cause I'm sure there's gonna be some type of project delay or rain or, God knows what happens. But also just the really positive side of it, where it's like you got a super heavy social media presence, and I think you could have someone almost dedicated to that. So I don't know if that's a third party firm. I know we're in the midst of hiring a communications director, right? But they're also heavily gonna be stretched thin on just normal city stuff. So I personally really like to see a really strong communications effort. In consultation with the 76 CID board, because I know on the city side, we're gonna really want to push hard, but there's a certain thing with, right?
Okay. Paul, question for you, and probably one of the questions for Todd, but is this gonna affect anything when it comes to the bonding? If we were to increase the budget, where do they look directly at? Are they looking at the net surplus? They look at our bond rating, our percentages?
Hi, Chuck. No, I don't think this impacts the bond rating or the ability to market the bonds.
Thanks, Todd. I wouldn't, if it's not
is there,
gonna.
I was interested,
Go ahead, Mayor.
thank you. I was interested in anywhere on our website that we have announced the news that this board has approved the bonding to move forward, the construction bids to move forward, just some kind of announcement, maybe to the community, but to others, saying that, look, we are making movement. And I don't think that's anywhere on our existing website.
It is not. Maria and I met right after the last month's board meeting and put together a little summary of our plan for communications. And the first big announcement was scheduled to be when bids came in. That seemed to make sense to us and be a significant milestone that would be exciting for the community. So when that didn't happen, that media release, of course, did not happen, or when we didn't get bids. So that was the plan moving forward, but there's certainly other updates we could make to the site, and we need to start doing that, to your point, Mayor.
Yeah, and if we could, the sooner the better, because we approved that, was that 2 months ago? And I know we've had city announcements on, or excuse me, we've had these announcements on our city site, and I think Maria put those up there. So anything we can do to get up there, the sooner the better. Anybody looking for that information will feel better.
And I don't, but, Paul, we have no reason we couldn't go ahead and announce bond rating and all of that stuff that we received, right? Paul, you're muted, I think, we can't hear you.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah,
I'm not aware of any reason, Todd, that we made it public, right? So
That's correct.
can we just float over that information to Ann? And she can get it, and
Please.
Maria as well, if you don't have it, and that way they can at least put something together and get it on.
was that to me, Chuck?
You or Todd, you can, whichever one wants to send the quickest email.
Yeah, I'd be happy to forward that. Who was it that was it Ann? Is that who it needs to go to?
Yeah, Ann and Maria, I don't,
I can send it on to her too.
okay, just send it to Ann and Ann's gonna send it on to Maria. We'll get you guys the contact email from Maria as well. So going back to the budget, if you guys are good, I wouldn't be opposed to bumping that up to 100 grand.
I'd second that if that's a motion.
Mayor made a motion. You made the motion, Mayor, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Second by Mike. Any questions, further discussion regarding increasing the consulting fee up to 100 grand? Alex, do you feel like that's a good start?
I think that's great, you know, and I would like to eventually try to, once that project gets launched, I'd like to maybe revisit our 2026 budget and see if there's other resources that make sense or a better breakdown of the 100,000 where it's all going, just so we know from the city side too.
Makes sense. Any further discussion? All those in favor, state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, so,
Will we have a resolution at the next meeting?
well, we could probably, do you need a resolution sooner than later?
So we just got the budget a few hours ago. There's a resolution. There's also other budget message that goes with this. So it'll have to be formally approved and funds appropriated at the next meeting.
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks, Paul. Okay, any further discussion regarding the budget? My only other comment is the numbers we got from capital improvements, sidewalk, roadway improvements and the wow factor. Those just wags. Just guesses. That's. The engineer us. Engineer, okay, great. Just wanted to make sure. Okay. I have nothing else on the budget. Does anybody have anything further than anybody else discuss the budget?
Thank you for the communication conversation. I appreciate that. We learned so much from the downtown project, and want to throw the right resource to that.
It's huge. It's definitely huge from the city standpoint and maybe the role as we have with, getting the project going again with the CID. I had a meeting not too long ago with somebody that's in segment 2 that had no idea whether we were moving forward or not. That was last week. So being able to kind of inform them and let them know, I think it's hugely important. So yeah. All right, moving on to discussion.
Before we move on, please.
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, I missed the 2 figures. The figure for the wow factors that came in and the figure for the bond rating.
So the wow factor, the proposed budget is $599,500. This is, with the one that's on the screen is different.
Yes.
Yeah, I sent an updated one right after that included the wow factor. We had got that number an hour after we sent this one out, and so we wanted to make sure we included it. So you guys had a proposed budget in front of you.
So is there a new figure,
Yes.
Allison?
It was sent out.
Yep, it was sent out, and Mayor, I can get that to you if you weren't on that chain of emails, but there is a figure for the wow factor of $599,500. On that updated one, since we got those figures in right after we sent out this one. So,
Then there's a 500,000 for the sidewalk and roadway improvements on the intersection as well. So combined, a little over, we're right at 1.1 million.
Okay, thank you. And what was the bond rating?
There.
Well, I think it's gonna go through the natural path of saying, we'll figure it out, right?
Well, we can, I mean, Todd can share the information. Yeah, I mean, it's public, so, no, see, not, right? Todd, do you wanna go ahead and share that information, please?
Sure, be glad to. So the bond rating that was assigned by Standard and Poor's is BBB plus, which was on the high end of the range that we were initially considering. So we think that's favorable, and that will help as Baird gets ready to market the bonds.
Thank you for that, Todd.
Yeah, and maybe one other thing, just real quickly here, the way S&P does their ratings, there's BBB was kind of considered investment grade, and then from BBB it goes to A, AA, and AAA. So like the state of Missouri would be a AAA rated entity, and then kind of goes down from there. But in this instance, where it's a single purpose entity with the CID 1% sales tax being the only revenue stream, getting into that single A category would be very challenging. So given the situation here and the circumstances, we're very pleased with the BBB plus.
And Todd, do you have a corresponding interest rate based on those factors that you'd feel comfortable with?
Probably not at this point, Mayor. We did work with Baird 2 weeks ago on getting some updated numbers for the preliminary official statement, and the market has moved. July was not a good month in the bond market with rates going up. So, I'll be prepared. I can send something around after I speak with the Baird folks, kind of follow up on that item.
Todd, I don't know if you fell off. I'm comfortable following your lead. I just didn't know if you had a feeling.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you the numbers that this was just an estimate from a couple weeks ago, but we were at an average rate. Let me get to it here. We're at an average rate of just a little above 5%. My concern is, given the volatility in the market, that it may be higher today, a little higher. But I think suffice it to say that, it should be somewhere in the 5 to 5.5% range.
Okay, well, I know it doesn't matter, but in my mind, I was really hoping we were going to be closer to the 4.5 or 4 3/4, but the market is what it is.
Thanks, Todd. Very good. Okay. Moving on to discussion of no bid for project. Mike?
If it pleasures the board, I want to spend just a moment to talk about 165 and 76 is those plans, not that you see those numbers affect your budget. And so we got some renderings back and the plans are now sealed. And so that they're completed. We had some requests from board members that are here in particular And so these are the new renderings and the new locations for the kind of selfie spot that is there, the flag improvements that we were talking about, making sure that they're in the right order. And so Matt's gonna kind of slowly go through this. I just wanted you all to see, and if there was something that just shined out as completely wrong or anything like that, we would need that. The idea behind it and the importance of talking about it today is we thought we were gonna have a bid for the other segments, being segment 1 and 2, and we're not trying to muddy the waters by having this discussion, but this one is on the heels of the other one. So I just want to make sure that our time together is spent productively and we can show some more of the movement that we're doing on the next project. We also wanted to update you that we're working on the hot segments for the crossings, and that will be near Presley's and of course the Wax Museum. Those are in production now. The poles are going to be across the street from both of those locations, one on Cheddar side and the other one straight across the street. We're exploring the ducts that were put in there to make sure that all works. And we had sent out some information to business partners that were on there to say, do you have any concerns or anything like that? And at the time, we didn't hear anything back. So that production role has to get going with MoDOT because that's a TAP agreement that's there. And we expect some pretty quick updates with that with Great River Engineering and a separate group from Todd that's here today. So are there any questions or concerns with the renderings that are there? We're happy with, we are happy staff wise, and we got the colors and the plants kind of figured out a little bit better. Of course, it's always a rendering. You can see little glitches and things, but overall, the other thing that you can stay here for a half second is we wanted to talk for just a moment about why you saw that increase in the WOW. This is the bid document that will be going out, and what the engineer record did there from CJW is they bumped up the eagle sculpture allowances, the flag allowances, the metal allowances, and then of course we added the City of Branson logo sign allowance. So that's basically setting you up for those numbers that we gave you and gives you a lock-in point for that. Probably talk about it a little bit later on segment 1 and 2 about some of the verbiage that we put in the JSP to protect the city's interest, the bidding interest, and also making sure that we're following procurement rules correctly in that. But we felt comfortable in sharing that, and that's where we are now. So there's a high likelihood once we get a bid in for this that as soon as we get the bid in, we will release the next one. And just want to continue to make you aware of the progress on the other segments that aren't forgotten or past. Any questions?
So, Michael, what's the spitball number?
Spitball number on the whole intersection is north of $2 million. We'll just leave it at that.
North of what?
North of 2 million. By the time you put in, you'll have a signalized intersection that's there, so on and so forth. But the bidding process will wash out that actual number. The numbers that we know that we were allocating was roughly $500,000 for sidewalk and crosswalk improvements that the CID would cover, and then of course WOW experience that's there. You have almost $1 million in for a signalized intersection improvement and overlay that's in that area.
I like that upgrade update with the photo opportunity, with the logo, the city of Branson there. That's awesome. So it's a lot of things that you made. This is what you want to do. That looks good.
It is offset to the left a little bit. We made that decision in terms of safety and what does that look like as you see the black car going behind the other person, and we hope that people aren't walking out into that to get that perfect pose. But they tried to do some models to see if that would work or not. And some people went out and took a look, and they think it will with today's iPhone cameras. Not only get better, so.
Okay, oh, cool.
With that, if you're all good with that, those documents look very similar to that one, and we'll keep on rolling along there, and you'll see those bid items go out, and hopefully we get a successful bidder for that. Yes.
Quick question, can I have those renderings and can they be shared publicly now?
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you, please send.
Support.
It's
They
recorded.
are yours, so they're good. So, yep. I have them in a folder and I'll hit send as soon as we get the CD.
Thank you.
Excited for that, so, all right, so, the next items that we're gonna talk about is the, no bid that we got. It's a little disappointing, but understandable. And some of the efforts that the city went through and steps that we did, right off the bat, as soon as we knew we had a no bid situation. We had heard rumblings that there were some concerns during the bidding. We did get some documentation that was included in an addendum from Emory staff asking questions about project timeline and concerns about 12 months and a 10-month incentive that was there. We sent out a letter that you all have seen on the board and tried to get a lot of the stakeholders that were on the outside, just not necessarily the businesses, but anybody that sat at this table or had a conversation before with us about it to know where we were standing. Following that email, we went back and we took the list of all the plan holders that showed up. We had a lot of plan holders show up and they had to show up in person. It was a great meeting. They asked a lot of great questions as we went through that. That's a little bit of an update about the steps that go through that. Great River Engineering, Todd and myself and their whole staff were here. And we answered a lot of the concerns that were working through that. What, 35 people showed up? Yeah. So 35 bid planners, companies that are large enough to bid this. So they had to be on the MoDOT cooperative bid approved list. So that means that they have performed well enough in the state of Missouri to do this. That is kind of a nice thing for the city to also use that list, but that's part of our funding with them and the government's money that's there. And they come into congruence with us. So they kind of keep the train in the tracks, if you would say, and make sure we keep going straight. So super excited about that. Super excited about the people that showed up. Awesome questions that were there. When we didn't receive any bids, which was expected towards the end, that we knew that there was some concerns about the timeline. This really mimicked what happened in downtown Branson. Downtown Branson that we did had a timeline that the business and merchants thought was acceptable for the business risk that's on the side of that. And the city kept open ears for all those things, just as we've kept open ears for this project that's here. Unfortunately, the timeline, the materials that are there, the materials that are open are saying, just like downtown, that 12 months isn't acceptable. And so we heard one of the bidders straight off the bat say it's minimal of 2 years, or other people with 3 years, so on and so forth. So we let it play out to a no bid situation, which is what responsibly as a city and with MoDOT concurrence and the governor's money you have to do. So that happened and it's sad, but it's there. We immediately sent out this letter that sits in front of you. And what we try to do was give the contractor and Matt can hold up for those that are online to, we'll go down to skip 6 that are concerns with that. So scroll up. It should be outward. Plan hold. No. Okay, so perfect. So those that are online, you can see that didn't show. And I apologize, we were finishing these things and didn't send them out ahead of time. So we sent out this letter and said, hey, Monday and Tuesday of this week, so we're hot off the heels of that being Wednesday. When could you meet with the city of Branson and also with Great River Engineering, and we can answer some questions and have a real honest conversation before we put it out as bid. We did on the Friday when we got no bid, went straight to MoDOT, asked for concurrence that we had no bid, and asked for permission to bid again, and we're granted that on Friday, which is awesome because that's the fastest turnaround MoDOT's ever done. So super excited about that. So that's green light number one that we need to make sure that the money is flowing along, and of course we need a green light from you today. Where I head with this is this was our survey that we sent out. And what I did was I highlighted in yellow the things that somebody checked a box for that said, this is the reason my company decided not to bid. And so we asked them and it was hands off and sent it back in and said, hey, if you have time, can we meet with you? And so ESS, Rademacher, KCI, and Carson Mitchell all clicked schedule or completion date. And then you just kind of go down the list, current workload or lack of capacity. Carson Mitchell said, hey, we can do above ground, but we can't do below ground. And we said, well, what does that look like for your company when we met with them about partnering up with somebody? So kind of gave them project size or complexity. Again, they were worried about the utilities underneath the ground, so that knocks them out of that. Contract terms or risk allocation, ESS brought up or checked when they brought it back into us. Utility right-of-way concerns, ESS checked that. And then project too large for company resources, Carson Mitchell. So as you see, the majority of people were packed into that schedule or completion date. And what's a really good thing is that lots of people didn't check mark and say these plans are unbuildable, they're not designed correctly. Great River Engineering did a great job with that, and we answered the questions that were there. We did have 5 addendums as we were going through that. That's a huge lift that you're answering those questions to go through, and we cleaned up some documents. And the goal is with the city and Great River Engineering is to compress that all into one clean sheet, go back out. We did receive a couple comments from landscape forums, and then of course a design company for the ribbons and sculptures, and said, hey, we're a sub, but we'd like you to know this is what happened. Only one person reached out, or the notes that are there. So I just wanted to highlight a little bit of that. The next page that we're going to go to is the summary of conversations with plan holders. So when we did have these in-person meetings with Emory staff, Branco actually did not fill out the form, so we did put that on the front page. And we basically talked about here's where the city and the 7060 CID board is. We know we were going to meet with you today. We were going to make a proposal to you for your consideration to get back out and move back forward from that. And can you tell us, based on what you turned in and what it was there? And Spencer and Todd can tell you it was a great conversation. It was very open. Lots of companies said, wow, this is really cool. This other city, they let it put out to bid and they don't care. And they put it out to bid again and they don't care. And finally they figure out, hey, we got to change some things. And instead, you taking the opportunity that is allowed by MoDOT and by our own rules, the statutory rules and questionnaire rules, that we can sit down and have those conversations. So we are sharing that publicly too, but we reminded everybody that, of course, anything that you say can be publicly requested on that. And the primary reasons of no bid, you'll see ranked 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and all the things that are there. I am happy, and Todd's here and Spencer's here to answer any of the questions about the things in there, but I don't want to see labor literally, as Todd calls it, speed dating with companies over 2 days. It was fun, but it was a ton of work to sit and record all those things and make sure that we address it. Spencer is the principal, as you all may know. He's here too, and super thankful that that they're basically out of money and didn't know we were going to come into this and work with the city and made sure their staff had time. This was a city-led effort, and then we said, hey, by the way, if you want to come to a Monday and Tuesday, clear your schedules, and then they did, and we were super thankful for that. So what we did find, without just continuing to be labor, is the completion date and schedule. So we'll flip over to, if there's no questions about the discussions that were there or anything that you'd like to dig into, I'll take a moment pause and let you digest a little bit about what I said. I set you close to Alice and I'll talk faster.
Question, Mike.
Yes.
You talked about 35 people at the pre-bidders conference. How many companies did that represent?
That represented, I think our total in was 20, roughly.
20.
So yeah, you had a couple 2s and 3s that were in there.
Right.
As far as bidding up, right? So
No, I understand.
Yeah. Yep. So hard to say it that way. That's not the clearest way to say it, but yeah. Okay, so
Can you walk through the incentive package that you put together? Because I think that's.
yeah, so the incentive package, we went over that with the bidders. We want to leave that in play and we don't want to adjust it. What it was a 2-month incentive for $500,000. That's what this proposal is going to be to you here. If we do need to go and change the incentive disincentive package, that's something you all have to vote on, and then we would have to take back to MoDOT, back through the appropriate boards through there to get that approved to put it back out to bid. But if we leave the incentive disincentive alone at this time, it's good. The contractors when we asked about the incentive and disincentive package, they basically laughed. They said, there's no way you would get it done in 10 months. There, none of them. But one of the comments, written comments was, you guys don't know how long this takes. Just in concrete work, to stamp concrete for sidewalks is 8 months. That's a mile each side, so 2 miles long. Plus you're waiting for all those things. The other kind of major concerns and conversations, and we did a good job when the plans were out. We had a meeting. There was some concern about what do the utility companies kind of run their own show, right? They show up and come and go when they please. A hurricane can come and the people are gone. And what was the commitment with the utility companies and Great River Engineering ourselves had kind of like an emergency meeting with all the utility companies and made sure that they were all there. In the bidders pre-conference that they all had to come to, unfortunately, Liberty was not there to what kind of stop some of those ways of, hey, do you guys show up? Well, how much does it cost to move a pole? How long is the requirement to hold up a pole while we move something around? How many can you do at a time? Because they're thinking about logistics of, if I get delayed by a utility company by a month, what does that look like, especially on a 12-month contract? And we heard that loud. And I think we satisfied those concerns over there. I think they're pretty
In
good.
White River alone, we learned from KCI, one of the contractors that was going after the project. They talked to White River, Joe Donovan. They said their amount of work that they need to do for relocation, just for the overhead electric, which they're one of the most impacted utility companies on the corridor, but their work alone was 16 months right there. So that's just the electric side of it. So that goes to show you kind of what we're dealing with. Granted, they're going to be involved with the project basically from start to finish, because there could be other work going on, but until the duct bank is in place, they can't really abandon their facilities, and then they've got time behind them to take out the poles and stuff that are in conflict. So, yep.
And other parts to that conversation that we all don't necessarily think about every day is you have a utility pole and you have an electric company on there, but you have the cable and the fiber and everybody else is below, right? Closer to the ground, but they're also in that pecking order below. Well, those systems and services also require power. And so they have boxes that are running components to their system. So power has to move first, and then those guys have to make sure that they power up their systems next to it, back and forth. And so there's a lot of coordination. We did talk, and we're going to move back around as we have from the very beginning. And when I got here in 2022, we had the first utility meeting. I will always remember that. I was like, wow, there's a lot of people here. So they're all well aware of that. And I also wanted to highlight that Liberty Utilities, all those contracts are contracts that we brought to you and brought to the Board of Aldermen. Those contracts are all in play with the city. And so that creates some worry. Inside our JSP contract documents, though, the coordination between the contractor and the utility companies is the responsibility of the contractor. That creates some risk. And so that is a risk that the city and the board hopefully supports, because you want them talking the whole time and working together and creating those relationships. What you saw that you did in segment 3 is you built it and then they came underneath the ground a little later on and you patched in pieces that came back in there. That's a possibility to a point, but with the amount of driveways that we're relocating and a street that we're actually relocating a little bit, that's not feasible in this project to do it that way.
I commend you and from this board, right, of putting out a project scope and a set of incentives and other structures that are really what this, the 76 businesses wanted, right? And I think very similar to downtown, right? We put out what we had heard and all the feedback we received and the best possible solution, right, for the business community. And I think that was done through this. So I personally don't really look at a failure that we didn't get bids. I looked at it as kind of a first effort to put out the best case scenario that works the best for this project and the business community leaders in this board. So I guess we'll have to see what you recommend for going back out to bid, but I commend you a lot for taking the courage and putting that together. We got a lot of good feedback through it. But again, I just hope it doesn't get lost on anyone that this wasn't a failure that we didn't get this. It was very much a best foot forward effort to accomplish all the things that we had thought as a board and as 76 business owners, that's the stakeholder group side of things, wanted as part of this project. And so now that it didn't come back that way, the contractors weren't able to get that done, things are going to have to change. There might be some compromise here. But I I want to give you I know you take this very, very seriously, very personally, and I know getting no bids for this project probably was crushing to you.
And that you agree, I thought I was mentally prepared for it, and then when we opened it, and there was one person in the room, and I'm like, oh God, please don't be the only bidder, because it's gonna be really bad.
Well, and one thing that's important to note, with the public bidding process like this, the first time the contractor can see the plans is after it's been advertised. So we can't share this information with them prior to it. We can't bounce ideas off of them. I mean, we're engineers, we do our best to come up with an estimated schedule. But end of the day, it's the contractors to say whether or not they can build it, and they're judging risk, reward, stuff like that as well. But with this schedule, they saw the plans, they saw the utility conflicts, everything. They just weren't willing to. They said it's a great project, and they all echoed that. They said this is a great project, well put together, but we just need more time. They need more time to look at it. And I know Michael early in the process was hoping there was a way we could get contractors to provide input prior to going out to bidding, but we weren't able to do that because of the funding sources with MoDOT and the Federal Highway Administration as well. So this was really a first look. Now, when we go back through the rebid process, the contractors are already familiar with the plans. We just changed the terms on the JSPs up front as far as the completion schedule. And so it'll be a very quick process. We can already incorporate the 5 addendums we had. Those are already incorporated in the plan set. So we're already starting ahead of the road as far as the bidding process. So I think it's going to be a lot like downtown, where you go from having no bids to having 4 bids. And so I think this next round is going to be, as long as we schedule it right, have the incentives right, which that's why the conversations were critical with all the different contractor teams. I think we'll be successful going forward.
I just started to hear grumblings from certain leaders that this was a failed effort, and I just think that's fundamentally wrong. So I just wanted to address that.
I don't think it's a failed effort. This is part of the process. I mean, I hate to be going into something that realistically in a year from now we're in trouble. And then all of a sudden we going through this. It's going to take 2 years, by the way. I think that this is a big project, and they're done really good in terms of the detail, really good about managing and the process. It is what it is. I talked to Joe at the White River. He's behind a lot of the project I'm working with right now. So it's not like they are all this is not the only project they're working. They've got so many things going on right now. The Brent tomato and all that stuff going on. It just I think this. I never see it as a failure, because this is a process. It takes this to get there. The question is, how do we get there? And then I think another question we would ask, I know you probably already thought about it. If you go to 2-year period, what is the impact and cost? Because general condition and overhead is going to be twice as much. Okay, is that a $40-some million project? 46 or something. But I think in terms of, I know you gave me some but I don't know if you want us to ask him now. But as you go through this thing, there are things in this going to eliminate itself. It's too big a project. It's pretty honest about it, okay? But this is like you say, it's a project they want. The question is, it doesn't fit. There are things in there that realistically it didn't work real well. So the question is, do we? I want to ask them probably more than anything else. I know you talked to all this stuff. From all the stuff that the first 2 pages you share with us, is there any additional thing that you want to share with us that maybe, because I don't think that this is alarm. This is part of the process.
Yeah.
The question is there anything else, since you're asking the question? I want to hear from them what some thought that maybe, are you concerned? What are your thoughts?
Well, I know we have one thing that we have to ask the board. It's going to be a little bit later on if we moved on, but some of the concerns that we heard that we need to eliminate risk is the gateway. On the gateway, one of the contractors that we met with afterwards said we need a commitment that if we get the renderings and the design build part of it together, that we can take it to the board, which is you all, and within 14 days get an answer back. So if that means, hey, is it necessarily you're saying yes, or is it an email that goes out? That's a question I need to ask you all, because and from the city perspective, this this has created worry for me for a long time of what is this thing? How many letters are on there? We talked about this recently. And the concerns that I saw there, two of the contractors brought up specific about how can you limit that risk? And today at your meeting today, can you get a congruence from the group to say, hey, we turn it out, we provide kind of what you all have done before is some feedback back in 14 days. So that's one of the items that I know we need from the board, and Todd will speak to the other things that Billy brought up.
Yeah, and it was a resounding, like from all the contractors that was scheduled. I mean, they were all in the 18 to 24 months, like minimum to get this done. And even some of them were skeptical about 18 months. Just
Do you
because.
agree with that, though, is the 18?
I think, I think the more I've gotten into it, I would say yes. Like if you were to shut down 76 from the stoplight at Shepherd of the Hills all the way to Ripley's and give the contractor the ability to do all that work at once, they should have no problem getting that done within a year time frame. But since we have to have vehicle access and pedestrian access, you got a lane in each direction for vehicles and pedestrian access, and keeping entrances open, working with business owners. I think the complexities of that, coupled with all the utility coordination that's required there, it is just way too much in 1 year. And so that's where it's come out. And that's what's shaken out. Exactly what Michael has said. And we don't know that until we put something out on the street. And so unfortunately we put it on the street. We couldn't make the changes just because there's 4 different packages, and it would have been a significant change. And it really brings us back to the table to interview all the contractors that were plan holders that were interested in the project. And there is a ton of interest in the project. I mean, that is resounding. Like, we're going to get some really good bids once we get this thing time framed correct. There's no doubt, because these contractors have already put a lot of effort into putting the pricing together. Like, literally they have their packages put together, and it's just a matter of it hits the street. What's that new schedule time frame? What's the incentive package look like? Which the incentives, like Michael said, and the disincentives are going to stay similar. It's just going to be stretched out a little further once we all get to an agreement on what that schedule looks like. So, Spencer, I don't know if you have anything to add.
No, I mean, they were very enthusiastic about it. I mean, they all started with this. And they said, we don't want to enter a contract that we can't make that commitment and disappoint the city and disappoint the public. And so they don't want to have a bad reputation. They don't want that spilling over onto the city. So let's establish doable.
They didn't want to set that standard of like what happened on the downtown project when the LDs were not. They could have just scheduled the LDs, basically just drawn the project out 6 months and say, hey, we'll just pay. We built in 6 months of liquidated damages, but we're not going to do that because this, all the stakeholders would be furious about, and it would make everybody look bad. Plus, these contractors, they go after MoDOT work, which MoDOT's going design, build, construction management at risk. These are this type of funding mechanism and the way they structure projects. It's heavily qualification based and not necessarily price based. So qualifications are important. And one of those questions are, have you ever been assessed liquidated damages on a project? And so for contractors that are large and work on these statewide projects, they do not want to say, yes, we've been assessed liquidated damages, because that checks a box and then they can't even go after that project. So these are the level of the contractors that are looking at this. They're great contractors that do work the right way. They understand Branson, because public perception is everything on these projects, especially for this downtown project, the Strip. These are critical projects for them, and they don't want it to be a nightmare for 2 years or whatever. So they want it to be a successful project for everybody. And I appreciate it personally, because it's not just about the money. Because they could have given us a bid and priced in a year worth of liquidated damages, knowing that, man, we are gonna be at each other's throats with all the business owners, because they're gonna be furious. And they had that ability, and they were not, out of the respect to everybody that they work with, they said, we're not going to do it. So,
and hats off to the communication that we did in downtown, and the communication your own board does, and the reputation of Branson for, promoting a business that was there. Much of them brought that up. The other thing that we highlighted too is the possibility of 24-hour work is little to nil on this one because of the hotels that are in there and extended stay hotels, if you want to put it that way. But we see a lot of backlash that coming from that, where we pulled that off in downtown and tried it for a few weeks and got no complaints and just drove it all the way home. So that's always a consideration because people need their sleep to function. With that being said, I'd like to pivot into the page that's up on the screen there. And so when we talk to each of the contractors there, it's not as highlighted. We had people say from 20 months to 2 years to 2 years plus. And so we really asked the hard questions, and you don't want to give the contract to somebody and make it so easy that, hey, all they're doing is collecting dollars and they're not hustling the whole time. So on the left-hand side, you're going to see option 1, 2, and 3. These are the suggestions that we put together. And then as I told Todd and Great River can say, hey, Michael's crazy. Staff suggests that we go with option 1, and then we'll let Todd speak to what he thinks will work, and then let you all work through it and just basically give you the pros and cons that would work. The reason we put this together was to give you a baseline. So the contract means on the first line would be 20 months that's there. The incentive is the 2 months that you already have built in. And then we gave you a monthly calendar and a yearly calendar there to take a look at, where do you feel your businesses in the corridor would benefit the most? I think you also need to realize that towards the end of either project, if it was 20 months, 22 months, or 24 months, that then the incentive they're going to chase a little bit, but it's not a guarantee. And there's also not a guarantee that they may not go 2 months shy. Todd highlighted with you that we had a couple contractors let us know that they could have bid at $6 million higher and got it, but they didn't want to go through the public outcry of Branson Buzz. It was particularly mentioned in other businesses and other forms of social content. And so that's a powerful source. And if they ever watch that, there you go. It'll probably be on somebody's website tonight. With that being said, 24 months, every single of all the contractors that we and companies that we interviewed, almost all of them said yes, it could be done in 24 months. A lot of them said 22 months plus or minus 2 months, right? And I hate that. I did use that term a little bit with it. So they're going to figure incentive and disincentive in there. So they're probably going to build a little bit on each side as they had. And so that puts it back to there. Staff believes that at 20 months, you're looking at a successful project that was turned in early would be at 18 months. And that would be the best case scenario for the shortest amount of time since we've lost touch with 12 months. So with that being said, I'll let Todd speak real quick on his suggestion. Actually, I don't know which way it's going to go. And then you have the calendar to work there. And this is for you all to set is the timeline that's there and what you think is reasonable. Realizing that option 3 will open it up the most amount of possible bidders, which will drive down your costs.
If you go to 24 months, what additional contractors would be added to this thing?
So I would, based on my, being on the same calls and everything and working with contractors and having, very familiar with a lot of these contractors, I would say, Michael, you're spot on. You're going to get, if you go to 24 months, you're going to get the biggest spread of contractors. You're probably going to get 4 or 5 bidders at 24 months. If you narrow that down to 20 months with a 2-month accelerator on it, you're probably going to get half of that. So maybe, I know you'll get 1 for sure. I could see 2, maybe 3, but what you're going to see is a couple of the contractors slightly team up. Yeah, they'll team up together.
So right now, right, and it's important that we talk about this and we'll work off of each other on this, is that the contractors right now realize it's so much work that they're combining because of the lack of specialized labor that's there and the lack of skill, right? This is a big skill set because you're going from basically, it's not raw ground, you're ripping it out, but you're doing all the steps to build up to the ground to go all the way to the beautiful finish. And that was what was interesting is to hear one company said, we could never ever in a million years bid this, but we would love to do everything above ground. So, and so that was there.
Yep. And I personally think that, you're probably going to get a better price if you go 24 months, but you're gonna pay a premium if you go down to 20 months, because they're gonna have to pay more overtime. That's real dollars, right? They're paying guys time and a half at prevailing wage, so you're talking about significant pay. You won't have as much, the more time you give them, the less you have to worry about overtime, and the less likelihood that the contractors are gonna wanna be calling Mike and say, hey, can I work weekends, nights, that type of thing. Night work is gonna be very tough because, I mean, if you're just on a skid steer or anything, you're gonna be disruptive to the hotels and the apartments and everything that are over in that area. We didn't have to deal with that on the downtown project, but if we did, if there were people living downtown when we were working at night, they would be calling daily to the city, hey, this noise has gotta stop. We're disrupting everybody, so something to be considered. Look, I mean, I understand the importance to get it done, fast. The middle ground, that's not as appealing just because you gotta look at the completion schedule, like what time of year. A lot of the landscape plants are gonna be planted, so you gotta look at planting seasons. So really you don't wanna plant anything from like June 1st to probably September 1st, from basically Memorial Day to Labor Day. So that really kicks out that number 2. So you really look number 1 or number 3. So you're dealing with one, because you don't want to be planting all your sod and everything in June for an August opening, because it's not going to survive. Especially with, I mean, how many plants we have? 25,000, something like that.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's a lot of planting. You're talking a couple months just planting plants out there. So you want to set that up for success. So either you get it to where they're getting completed, in June timeframe, so those plants have been planted when, we're getting spring rains, or you delay it to 24 months, and then you're looking in, October timeframe, so you have September, October, you can get those plantings in.
And I thought about it from a point of view of if I was a business member and my sales that are there, and we know September, October, November is very good too. But also in this area, you got the Ferris wheel, you got the track that's in that area. You have the toy museum that's in there, and I would think that their revenues would be higher during the summertime than the fall, and or so some of the shows benefit the fall, and so building that out, that's kind of where we sat. And so Todd suggested, because I'm gonna make one, is 1, 2, or 3. And then we leave it to the board to discuss and work through.
I mean, I would personally go with 1. Because I would want to, I don't think they're benefiting much from going to 24 months because of the seasonality, but I think it's a good compromise, because the contractors are gonna ask for as much time as they can possibly get, because they almost like, it reduces the sense of urgency on their end. I think that 1 is going to be something that's going to be easier to swallow for some of the stakeholders, especially that they're getting in and out of there. If they get the full incentive, for instance, they're getting out of there, before spring break. So you still have the summer, or sorry, not spring break, Memorial Day, sorry, my bad. But you're still have the summer season in there, because you've got properties like Mike said that are critical. The summer season is critical to
Like
them.
Whitewater.
Yeah, Whitewater and the track, and
That's why I put this together. I sat in front of a computer, kept messing with the days, and I'm like, the best way to do it is put a calendar, let you all decide, and pray that you choose number 1.
So-
The rest of it's built on number 1.
yeah,
So you're suggesting number 1.
number 1. Yeah.
Is that realistic within the contract? I mean, I know you talked to everyone, and right now, even it's 20 months, is that really,
The underdog will probably bid it for 22 months and put a little bit of liquidated damages in it if that's the way it goes.
I see. And Billy, I think they were hedging their bet when they were giving us their number. I think they were being conservative with their ass.
They're edging, as Spencer's highlighting, for least risk. Of course, you're a contractor, and of course, we'll probably watch this, and they want the least amount of risk. But I still, from a city perspective, and what I think the board would want, and Todd is, I want them to work hard. I don't wanna do this longer than a year, to be honest with you.
Well,
I
well,
like
the
years.
utility, this project's a little different than like, you compare it to like, Grant Road up in Springfield, because those utility companies did not have an incentive to get out of the way. They didn't have agreements in place. They weren't getting paid to move their stuff. This is different with those utility agreements. There will be incentive for the utility companies to get out of the way. So some of that risk has been eliminated, but trying to explain that to contractors that are coming out with that great road project, it's very difficult.
Rademacher came off that project, it's 3 years in the making, they didn't have their easements correct, they didn't have their lighting and utility agreements correct, they're over 3 years and still not done. And so we don't wanna hear that, so we did a lot of work.
It's
And what would we leave it to?
It's also the responsibility of the contractors to get the easements on that grant.
Yeah.
I like that, we'll do that next time. Make the contractors get it.
You know, this thing, I don't know, in terms of this kind of schedule. I know when I building a theme park, I know it's easier, but on this kind of stuff. I know there's a stretch of, I don't know how many miles, section 1 and 2, okay? But it's not like we're gonna shut the thing down for 20 months, okay? I mean, there's could be a section could be done that it won't be impact, like say the Toy Museum. We might not have the landscaping, but they still be open and, you know, it's not like they're gonna be impact close for 20 months, okay? It's just, yes, there's a whole section of it's called the duck bank. It's gotta be buried, lines gotta be through this, but you know, when we're going to Butterfly Palace, I mean, we're gonna be done, but the EAF is outside. I don't care if they're not done yet, the paint, you know? The paint, it can be done later on or whatever, but it's still open during operation. But this thing here, I don't know what that is in terms of, you know, you guys, you know, I mean, it's like.
There's no full closure.
Right, they talked about treating it like a train, and so, a couple of them said like middle aisle, one said 2 at each end, one said from one end to the other, and they do the underground and they just keep moving along, and then they come back. And then they do the next layer on top and come back and just keep going in a circle. And so I thought that was an interesting way to look at it. So you do all this work and then you pick up and you move your zone forward, and you have probably pretty similar to what happened on 3, but 3 was 0.33 of a mile, so they went 1,500 feet, picked up like 3 times in there from the pictures I saw. So
And there's a lot bigger work area too. I mean, they're not building right up on businesses like we were downtown. So it's a completely different.
Parking lot.
Yeah, correct. You've got a little bit of a buffer there. And so, and you also have the turn lane going down the middle too, so you can shift traffic. You know, you won't have all 3 lanes open, but you'll have 2 of the 3 lanes open. So you'll have, you know, traffic going both directions. So.
And to Philly, that thing too is that access to every driveway is maintained during construction. But never closing a driveway and always maintaining pedestrian accommodations.
The hardest thing in design is you have all these driveways, but the best thing in construction is you have all these driveways. So, I mean, we can work with property owners. I mean, it truly is because they have multiple points of access into these businesses. And a lot of them you can get into from the backside that all of us locals benefit because we don't have to fight the traffic out there. So we come in from the backside. So there's multiple ways to egress. And so I think, you know, we weren't getting contractors coming to us saying, oh, well, we should do this like downtown where you should just close off a whole block and just give us, you know, a block at a time, because that was different because it was more constrained. This is why.
Downtown.
Yeah. And remember, we designed it to keep traffic open and build it a half at a time. But then they came back and said, well, what if we did this? So Michael and I had to go in front of the property owners to see what they would be willing to stomach. And they chose what we built it. And it just got, in return, it got done sooner. So.
Well, I like the 20 month because the fact that you're planning for the opening of the summer, and you know you're opening the doors, you know, spring, you know, it's just everything. But you know, if it realistically if it's hard and you won't get that disqualifies so many you're going to be removing some kind of people that you want to be working on this thing.
Yeah.
Then you got to think about that also, because we're talking about 2 or 3 months there. And I don't know, we're not shutting down 76, okay? There's still people, you know, I know that at the end, it's the lipstick that we're putting on.
Yeah.
It's not gonna be, you know, the final, you know, checklist is not, punch list is not gonna be So I think that, but
It'll be a substantial.
I think this 1 month looks great. I think the question is the 24 month really the thing that you need to do? Because sometimes you do something, you regret it, you wish you would have 24, and you said, well, I wish we just bite the bullet and try to figure out that part. I don't know.
Yeah.
You guys are the
The
expert.
risk with one would be if you did 20 months and you said, hey, we're gonna be done in June, and you start advertising, hey, we're gonna be done in June, and if they don't make it, and they go long, they go a month long or too long. Then, what's the perception of that? With that, that's the last I'm gonna say, let you guys talk
Don't you
about
need more
it.
bid? I mean, you said you need more bids for option 2 or 3, right?
Yes.
2 or 3, you're not.
Wouldn't that help with price and we can be a little selective of what contractor we want and what? I mean, there's negotiation of those, right? So if you get.
There's no negotiation.
No, I'm saying, no,
You basically
I get that. What I'm saying though is if you give them the 24 months. Do we have a little bit better working relationship up front with them? A little bit of flexibility throughout and some things. I mean, I guess if you get more bids.
This is why you all make
It's
this.
gonna make it cost.
Yeah,
It's gonna cost what?
correct. You're not having to pay as much
Not
overtime.
having to budget the time.
They're- You're gonna pay a premium for shorter duration.
I mean, like Billy said, you're gonna be paying extras for general conditions and things like that, but.
All right, with that, Todd and I will back away
Well,
from
let's-
this conversation,
let me-
let you guys work it.
Hey,
I love this part.
Mike,
We
I
get to
know-
work, so.
I know we don't have numbers, so because we can't really tell whether we're close to the number that we're at, okay? But we just know that there's a lot of complaining about the schedule, okay, and the difficulty and the risk and all that stuff. Going back to what Alex was saying, my question is, since we don't have any numbers to go with, it's hard to imagine, okay, at a 20 months, this is the kind of number you're gonna get. In a 24 month, this is the kind of number we get. Now, if I knew that, but you won't get it because they're bidding.
Yeah.
So you can't see it. That's the problem with all this, but you can see generally that, you guys done the numbers before. This number came from you guys, okay? So hopefully we're not that far off. Okay, so the question is, but you've been talking to these guys, so you know that you don't feeling where they're at. But you don't have any clue whether you're not gonna be off or on. Go ahead.
Let me ask these guys, when we were on the phone, if I'm remembering this right, was there just one contractor that's pushing 24 months?
Yeah, only one.
So.
And I think the one that was.
Who was that?
It's on your list.
It's on your list.
I'm trying.
It's been Ron.
And I think they'll partner with somebody. I think
Yes,
even at 2 years, they're gonna partner.
Yeah, they had 20 to 24, and he has said. How far can I go?
So they're probably just partner with someone else. What you say, Chad?
In person, that you do the done.
Yes, they did.
Yeah, they did. They would agree, yep.
Carson Mitchell was not in the game, at all.
Who did?
But they would have to join somebody, and they didn't have a partner. From our interview, they didn't have a partner yet.
Who did number 3? Say that 3.
Tom Boyce
Just did it.
Tom Boyce did the water line and
Tom Boyce.
Carson Mitchell did the pedestrian improvement.
And the rest changes in that because you got underground and overground. So, but it makes a longer project and they can work together, so.
So are you comfortable with 10/14 start date?
If we do, we walk the next thing.
If we get bids.
Yeah, we'll walk the next pages that are coming about,
Yeah.
you'll have to set here, and if you choose 1, 2, or 3, it just affects downstream a little bit. I don't know with this. Too much, yeah.
And Michael, you shared that start date with the contract.
I did, yeah, and thank you for saying that. So we told them that it was going back out to bid based on your suggestions today on Wednesday, that not this Friday, but the following Friday, back out to bid, 9/14, and we will walk those dates once you get your suggestion.
I got a feeling that the 20 months sounds like only one company that is investing 24, but all of a sudden, just at least they stop talking to you. I think that's the part of it. I think that we have not eliminated a lot of people. There may be the people that eliminate, but now there's a 20 or 22 months that It's us.
You have to remember too, by putting it back out, there may be people that came to the meeting, kind of like what you highlighted, where they were partnered and they're like, well, now that it's this long, I may not need to be partnered.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's probably, I think the difference between the 20-month and the 24-month is whether they go it alone or they partner.
Or somebody that didn't bid, look at it, opened it up. We did have one that was like, I'm gonna be honest with, we were like, how are the prices? How are the plans? And it would be like, honest with you, we opened it up. Our owner said there's no way. And they stopped looking at it, right? And they may take another look. So,
Interesting.
I mean, you have to take a risk.
Yeah.
It's similar to the downtown project. So when you went out to rebid downtown, what was that experience? Did you add months on the timeline or were there other factors?
So originally we had it went winter time to spring opening at spring break. Then we came back and they bid it for a longer period with the 2-month incentive that was on there. And then we've worked with the contractor that was selected to actually start right after. They had the ability to start in March, and we actually chose to start in April to allow for spring break injection of sales. And so that's where that was, although the perception of that was not what that was.
Does this 20 months include like any like losing day because snow days?
Nope. That's all risk on them. So, yeah, and that was some of the discussion that was there too, is that they work off of MoDOT's timeline of whatever it was, 188 days or 200 days that we talked about before, and that's what they figured. One of the other contractors also brought up that no matter what you hear online, they all read the same stuff we do, is that the plants aren't open to make asphalt. To open a plant to make concrete in the winter and do heated water and keep running at that time is extremely expensive when you're doing the volumes that we're doing. We're not doing one foundation for our house. We're pouring some serious number. And they also talked about by moving the timeline around too, that you would get the best opportunity for better products than asphalt and concrete. Yeah. And you know, we kind of put that behind our mind because we have JSPs that control the strengths and things like that. If you don't go there, it shows it.
You also don't want to, anytime you're adding mixtures to concrete, stuff like that, it has its, yes, it might meet the strengths, but long term, is it what, is it something we're gonna have to replace in 10 years instead of 20 years? You know, that makes a big difference. I mean, Michael's.
Always remind people there wouldn't be foundation companies if there weren't a lot of mistakes all the time. So next time you wake up in the morning, look at how many Thrasher commercials you see. I'm like, there must be a lot of money in fixing mistakes.
You know, we went from 12 to 20 months, that's 8 months more. I think they're much more interested in this. I think this is like you open the door. I mean, 12 was pretty aggressive and people in the board. I'm just thinking, oh, they're gonna do it. Oh.
So I would lean towards the 22 month, I'm sorry, I would lean towards the 24 months. The reason why is that gives them time to get the 2-month incentive, so you're at 22 months regardless. But if you can run the competition risk of them going out of the loan and or getting more bids, I think that's healthier for the project than cutting off 2 months of, I mean, this is supposed to last for how many decades, right? 2 to 3 months here or there.
Yeah, I mean, you're looking for a design life probably on this with 30 to 40 years and that 50 being worn out.
So
what I like about what you say is basically, we don't have numbers right now.
Yeah.
So you get more numbers when you do the 24, and like you say, if you give the incident, that's 22 months.
Yeah, what if we get the bids at
Yeah.
20 months and it's way over the estimate?
doesn't help us at all.
Yeah.
And it's like we gotta rebid it again.
Yeah.
And we're starting back over for 24 months.
And with that, him and I have a direct question. And we would like you all to.
Why don't you get my money?
Well, I did. I said one, Todd said one, and you all make your decision.
And you address the incentive package.
We cannot change the incentive package without going back through NODOT and all those steps. And so that was my suggestion, is leave the 2 months that's there. I know somebody was playing around with, well, what if you make it, $100,000 for 6 months, put it for 24, you're back at it. I'm like, it's impossible because you have to justify the dollar amount to the person. That's the way that's done with taxpayer money. Although if I was in private business, that's exactly what I'd do.
It's interesting that you had to get approval from the MDOT
Mhm.
to set another
All this,
rebid.
all congruence,
Well,
yes.
I didn't know, because it was the city, wow.
It's a city, the governor's money, that's what happens when they're holding the purse strings.
This is a really off the wall conversation, but instead of starting in October, so just thinking of the 24 months one, you look at accelerated, which is 8/15. Can you get that to, 5/15 of 26 by messing with because obviously 1 year automatic, you're gonna be working through the summer and fall, right? Automatically, it's just getting 12 months. The second, that last month of the project, you're gonna be possibly ending.
They could always possibly end early. I think what we forget is that last month, you don't feel the huge impact on vehicular is pretty much straightened out, and you don't feel a huge hit on pedestrian because you're landscaping normally at that point. Downtown we wrote this one a little bit differently, so they got done and it was back open to people being able to walk into businesses and people being able to drive. Then we had 2 months of, oh my gosh, let's get all these plants in here and get everything touched up, so.
I told us if you mess with the start date to try to gain that last year's worth of construction during the summer, is that at all worth it? Yeah. I don't know if that's even possible. I don't.
You know, but the start date?
I don't think that it probably is possible, right?
Just the start date, but,
2 months either way.
well, we can't start in 2 months or.
Yeah, but then slide the back, yeah,
We'd have to
start December.
We have to start in. We started in December, then you're hit, definitely hit.
Oh, it's August. It's still June in my mind, I'll be honest with you, it really is.
Delish.
Hold on a second. Michael?
Yeah,
Is there
yes,
any discussion? Michael, is there any
Yes.
discussion needed on receiving the state's money?
The state money, everything is locked in and good at this moment.
Were there timing concerns with their money?
We have to go back to rebid. So we're in the new fiscal year, so we are in good shape. Their fiscal year starts in July, so.
Okay, thanks.
Well, but it was a concern recently. We got over those humps.
Any idea on percentage of cost? I'd say gonna be a 10% increase in cost.
At least, yeah,
Think so.
yeah, I would say it'd probably be somewhere between 10 and 25% where that falls.
5%.
I believe that because the
Yeah.
part of this that we didn't highlight necessarily, but it's in the notes is where is all the labor? All the labor is up on 44 and 70. So good luck driving as you go across the state of Missouri over the next 3 years. So the updates are there and Springfield's doing big things too. So labor to get people to show up. Skilled labor. It is very, very skilled labor. I almost call a lot of the guys that do concrete work as artists. I mean, if you walk around downtown, there's some pretty sweet little new things that they pulled off down there. So.
But we did ask when we were talking to the contractors about, is there anything else happening in the market? New projects that are coming up that would deter you or impact the schedule on this? And they said no.
They did say that. I mean, that knocked out one of the biggest players that came to us. They have to get the I-44 project. So yeah, they're like, your little project there.
Yeah, they were awarded a $500 million fine bill.
Yeah, $500 million. So enjoy your drive to Oklahoma. You got that tore up for a minute. And San Springfield, if you haven't been out there recently, it is one fun drive. I asked you all to motion one way or another today, so we can keep moving. So, or you table it. Okay, do. We serve the board.
I don't know, we got table, we just need to take a position, I think, but we've heard a lot from you guys that But I do need to hear from everybody feels in that front. Like some people on the board.
I think there's two things we have to look at. We have the cycle taxpayer dollars, instead of being on 25% increase on cost, a big thing. And then the other thing is we have to look at it from a stakeholder perspective of what we're gonna be doing. Now, granted, those of us that were involved in segment 3 kind of saw what the process was. It was a good process, like we would want to definitely increase the budget and make sure the contractors have in their budget plenty of signage for the businesses that are there that are being affected. But from my standpoint, how 73 went, and Todd and I worked very closely together on 73. Very minimal disruption on our side. So the way the pedestrian walkway was set up, the way that they did the work, it was minimal disruption from our perspective. And we didn't have a back entrance. Everybody was coming in through the front. And I think that's kind of the play here as well, is while we say everybody has a back entrance, not everybody does. People on the west side have the back entrance, people on the east side, not so much. They're not as easy to access here. So with that, I'll entertain a motion from somebody. I hate the idea of going into 2 summers. But I hate the idea of spending 25% more off to,
Well, you're not spending 25% from the 20 months to the 24 month, right? You're spending, because we went from 12 to 20, it may be up to 20% higher. Right? So that's the key. I mean, that's a different story. I think the question is, I know this, we're not the expert in something. We're given a bunch of data and information from the expert here. And they're talking to the contractor. And we're not talking to the contractor. I mean, we all love to have the shortage months. That's the most obvious, and it sounds like from you guys, you feel like that is a doable month, the 20 months. And I believe so too. They're playing the game because they went from 12 and we added 8 months to it, which is pretty critical to me when you're talking about, pouring concrete, asphalt, landscaping, and all that stuff, and all the risk, difficulty. I'm only one voice, Chuck, with that. I would just go to the 20 months is what my recommendation. I know what Alex was saying is true, but these guys are already in it. We're the guys that the real guys gonna stick around and trying to build 20 months. They're just and you're right. The question is because we don't have numbers and we don't want to risk and we don't want to do this, but somewhere in there, since these guys are also put contingency into their they do that. And so if they can do fast tracks, and it's a big project.
From a communication standpoint, 3 is less risk of, and image is less risk of running over than 2 or 1. 1 makes it possible, but. And 1 releases, city resources too, and your resources to start working on the next sections. So a couple months here or there doesn't sound like a lot, but.
We're not gonna be doing the stuff in the next section for hours mentions.
Well, I think if the way.
That's kind of what.
Yeah. Well, I was for it until I saw your guys' budget. It says that we're gonna wait 2 years, so I was like, okay. So, maybe we could.
Yeah. What Chuck was saying earlier is interesting because it is. You talk about taxpayer money and all that stuff. It is the 20 months and the 24. It's the full month that we're paying somewhere else. And if they can get it in 20 months and they can bid it, but then they can be comfortable with it, which you don't do. So you'll see you might have 1 or 2, and they have to be creative also, meaning partnering with some of this big dog to make it happen. And so I think those are the things that I think 20 months is I like to speak. I tend to go over to 20 month old. Even if you go to 22, and they have the incentive, you hit it before the summer. That's June to 15. So I mean, that's another thing, it's just under 22 months. But since you guys are the ideas, my goal is just quit reporting, try to get it.
Okay, Billy's at 20, any other? I would say 22. 20. Because I really, I don't want to get into a second summer if we can't. I mean, the experts are saying 20 months. And but the cost might be at stake. Yeah. Mayor, Brian, Alex, any comments from any of you?
Just something for me, when I look at segment 3 historically, it looks like that was and I think it'll help to hear this. Would you guys say that segment 3 was more or less complicated if you ignore just sheer size and scope of work?
Less complicated.
Less complicated. So if it's less complicated and it took 16 months to do it without counting the break in between for funding problems, I just don't know how you could reasonably expect that the 12 months would have come out. And then I don't know how you could get behind the 18 months. So I don't know if it's that simple, but just looking at that literally did take that long when you count the months and you read the history on it. So even if we don't want to hear that it's going to go longer, I'd rather go with common sense and just go off what we already know than keep guessing and keep kicking it another 30 days. Because if we wait and we do the 20 and nobody bids again, is it effectively another 30-day delay?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's 30 days every time you don't have a bid.
So that's just thoughts I have when we look at this 18, 20, and 24. How are those options generated, I guess, if I missed that earlier on in the call?
So those were generated from the conversations, exit interviews with the plan holders about why they did or did not bid. And then we had the conversation with each of them, what they would like to see, and then what was physically possible by their company. And so the least we heard was we can pull it off in 18 months. We heard that a couple times. And so we put 20 and put the 2 months of bonus in there to ease that, to get more bidders in there. Spencer, you would say it's pretty accurate. Strategy. Yeah.
And the other thing too, I think, you've said it in our meetings is for you to get the return on your investment is to get this.
And that's what we discussed with them too, is you are all bonding money and you're gonna be sitting on a pot of money. That there were quite a few questions about why in the construction documents, we had a $10 million hold if that $10 million was going away. Because the companies are bonding and saying, we're gonna do this work, and they want zero delay. And I know Jeremy a long time ago talked about that. Once you turn that engine on, you can't stop. And so we said, hey, you guys were well on bonding, that might disappear in the actual JSPs that are in there. But that was to protect the city's 10 million count too. And so that'll be applied again or try to.
And if I missed it, are you guys as city staff leaning into the 20-month option, or are you not leaning into any 3 of them? I heard you talk about each of the 3, but which one are you actually asking for?
City staff is saying 1 for the businesses, the visitors, and sheer effort to get there. I really wanted 1 year, but that's okay. So 10 months downtown was a long time. So 2 years is a really long time. And we definitely told the contractors we would not entertain anything longer than 2 years, period. So it's unreasonable, not with the amount of work we put in. And that's where that conversation about Grant Street 3 years came up. And I think we alleviated those concerns.
And you feel like the 18 months, although ambitious, you feel like you have buy-in from exit surveys that will substantiate that people will actually take that on? Or is that, I mean, it's what you want, but is it reality?
It is the contract, just so we're super clear in case this gets brought back out somewhere else. It is a 20-month contract with an incentive of 2 months that they could gain.
Okay.
So they could be done at 18. No sense is the city saying 18 months with a 2-month improvement on there. It's 20, possibly if all moon, stars, weather, everything is good, you're at 18. Same with 22, everything's all good, you're down to 20. 24, you're down to 22. So we're going no longer than 2 years, and the incentive is chopping off possibly 2 months, and it's by day. So they could beat it by 45 days, a month and a half, or however you want to look at it.
So option one is what you're leaning into.
Yep. City staff is, and Great River. And they were independent of us. Actually, I didn't know what you were gonna say. So cheers. We like to try to deliver projects.
And you don't want to have too long a leash.
Yeah.
Contractors, because then they'll drag.
Then you'll have somebody writing about, well, there was 7 days out there and I photographed it, and anybody was out here for 7 days. Just like when you build a house, build a pool.
I'm of the mind that if you have design professionals that are getting comfortable with it, you guys have had interviews with people who applied in the last go around. I mean, it's a good show of faith to the stakeholders that we're going to do everything that we can to keep the fastest timeline without rushing to failure. It would suck to go with option one and then you get a no bid situation again and delay another 30 days. But if you have confidence there without not being able to personally guarantee it, I think it's prudent risk if you have the feedback.
Alderman Williams, I definitely cannot guarantee that if we choose one that we could have a no bid, but I think one bidder, 2 bidders said that we're definitely gaining at least 2. We might lose 1.
Perfect. I wouldn't expect you to. That's why I said without expecting you to personally guarantee it, but taking a little bit of prudent risk, that sounds like the way to go then.
Mike's LLC isn't going to be bidding on that.
Guarantee Spencer Strut.
I know Todd and Spencer and myself and other staff members and Cheryl, we don't want to do this again. This was a lot of legwork, a lot of work. And so
Yeah.
get that way. We still do 10 minutes of true, like, here's the next step. So you all know, it's just like we did before. So whichever way.
This is the mayor with a few questions. The difference, and I know we're talking, I think what I'm hearing everybody discuss is the difference between 18 and, is that right, 18 and 20 months?
20 and 24.
20, 22, and 24.
Okay, 2020. Well, the difference between 20 and 24 really is in the dead of winter months, isn't it, when we look at the calendar?
No, it's
Taking another summer.
July, August, September, October.
So you think the start date would be in October?
That's what they're projecting. That would be
Okay.
notice to proceed to the contractor. That means the clock gets smashed or turned on, however you want to look at it. The clock begins. Within a few,
Yeah.
give or take a few days if something crazy happens about bonding or something.
And so 20 months would get us close to the beginning of the summer season, correct?
Yes. Yeah, so 20 months would get you. Gets you June.
So, Michael, if you threw the dart, where would it land?
That we're gonna have a successful project. They're gonna finish somewhere between 20 and 18 months. And we'll have bidder or 2 or 3. I think best case scenario, we'll probably have 3. If from the exit interviews, which we're allowed to do because bidding was closed. Make sure I put some caveats in there.
Which is that close out, you'll have all 4 of them.
Plus there's a wild card that's market wise, you're not, this project's big, it's really big, but it's not big enough to pull St. Louis and Kansas City market people to come in. It's not fast and miles of road. You guys created a really unique, awesome project. Should be proud of what you have there.
I think that was the blend of heavy construction versus more finesse construction. It's a little bit of a blend.
Yeah,
I think we owe it to the community if we can have some degree of certainty to shorten this, the better, but not, walk into it again and have a no bid situation. That's what comes to mind for me. I don't think anybody at the table wants to forego a second summer, but if you have to, because common sense says it's probably not going to be viable, then you wouldn't do that. But you've done the due diligence and talked to these guys, so one would think that there's a way to bid this thing out, keep it on track, and not cost 2 summers.
So, hey, Michael, the other thing, we'll get feedback on it. We'll have another briefing. We'll get feedback there too. So I mean, there's another temperature check.
Yeah, Alderman Williams, if you didn't hear Spencer, we do have another temperature check that comes back when we open up and talk to them again and the bids are open, they can ask questions again.
No.
Pre-bid, I'm sorry.
Which is great for them. I'm guessing more or less the actual businesses and the stakeholders within the CID itself that would be impacted, not the guys doing the work. That too is important, obviously, for their feedback. Unless you're referring to the people bidding, correct? Not the stakeholders' feedback on this discussion.
Yeah, the bidders all on there. Unfortunately, the feedback we got from the business community and the timeline was there. This is why we're in the situation that we are today. And, we did talk to MoDOT a little bit about what they thought this project would be, because they have a different perspective, that they don't have the fancy part, as Spencer said, but they said definitely over a year. So that was their feedback. That makes no specialty finishes. But they also don't put huge timelines. They don't do what we do today on every project. They realize that it drives costs, as you all talked about. Brian, you got anything?
No, I mean, I'm kind of with you guys. If we think we can get it done in that 20-month contract, then we need to try to do that. I hate thinking or knowing that we may pay the premium for that, but it's worth it in that scenario only to try to capture that whole summer. As I'm looking at, 22-month or 24-month, 24-month puts us in a window where, if you look at attendance figures for the town as a whole, there's really not a big difference between mid-August through the mid-October timeframe. So I think we got to try to go for one, and hopefully we can get more than one person bidding on it, so that we can kind of gauge, what's a fair number there.
Thank you, Brian. Any other comment, discussion before we entertain a motion?
So if we go with one and say there's only one bid, we can move forward, right? Still with one bid.
Yes, for the most
You don't
part,
have to
unless
do
the
it
costs
before.
are so out of line that the suggestion would be no. For instance, if they came in at $80 million. There you go. You can reject the bid on that point.
Okay.
We always want 2, 3, 4 bids.
Yeah, to compare, yeah.
And so does MoDOT. They prefer.
They don't want us to just do the bid. They don't like one bids either. Bring this up and we'll take this down, let you go through, unless you guys still need that. It's like the majority of the group with the option one, I would entertain a motion.
I make a motion to do number one, 20-month.
Second that. There you go. First by Billy, a second by Mike. Do we have any further comments or discussions regarding this motion? Hearing none, all those in favor, say by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay.
got a direction.
Awesome, appreciate that. So your bond pricing, so we're gonna just kind of pick up, we rebuilt the same thing that we share for every meeting recently, showing our timeline that's on there. So the 76 ECID meeting, that's the meeting we're in today, so we postponed it, it's today. We'll turn back around and paper and MoDOT advertise on 8/13. Bid period starts on 8/14. General contractor virtual pre-bid is set up for 8/21 at 10 a.m. And then there's Labor Day. So that's where we were originally shooting. So you can kind of see us just shift up a little bit and move around. And we were hoping for shovels in the ground. Right after Labor Day on 8/14, you have the bid opening on that Monday, which is actually 32 days. We didn't think we were going to open on a Saturday or a Sunday. And we were going to request today that we have a special meeting with you all the Wednesday, the third week, and a resolution is what we would be after to recommend the contractor with the open bids, and we will hustle through that information. That basically gives us Monday and Tuesday to make sure that our engineer record and firm approve that. In congruence with that, the timeline to turn it back around, like you all talked about, is can you really turn it back around and get it back to that point? We're going to run them all in parallel. There's a little bit of risk into that because maybe your board says yes, we said yes, and yeah, and we went. We still have the Board of Aldermen, and we still have congruence with the state of Missouri. So we'll put all those together. The Board of Aldermen meeting is in green on the bottom there. So October 13th or 27th, their meetings are set. And I know if we really need it, they could do a special meeting. But we think we can make that 10-13 meeting work in there. Once that happens, we'll ask for a double read to our Board of Aldermen. Grateful for two of them to be at this meeting, and this is the reason for it. And you won't have the packages together your roughly 20 days ahead of time, because it's a big moving train as we talk about all the paper that's working, but we are willing to share anything ahead of time with anybody as we get these pieces in. So if you'd like to peruse through that or have some questions on that. The resolution for bonds and the contractor presented to the board, they approved that. And then we just switch, as soon as we get that, we switch into the phase of yes, here's all your stuff, and timer goes on. And your construction begins with the full 20 months. So thank you for that. I guessed what you would do. Otherwise, the bottom of this would have fallen apart. And there's your timeline there. There's a little bit of difference in the dates, a little bit because of certain months, and it's actually a day contract. I kind of highlighted that earlier. It's not necessarily 2 months, but they can get an incentive by day because that's how this incentive is figured. And so, as you see there, at midnight, hour of 6:14, if they're not done, they start paying us. And so we don't want to be there. We hope that we're not there. We believe that we've had a strong team and a strong teamwork. We're working in a relationship with you to put this together. With that, I will be quiet.
Everybody look at your calendar, make sure you go ahead and update regarding the 16th of September for the September board meeting. Please. Yeah.
And we can also
So-
set
So Michael, did you say that this will be on this Tuesday's Board of Aldermen meeting?
yes, it's well beyond it's well beyond this Tuesday. But it will not be on this Tuesday's meeting. It will be in October.
And why wouldn't it be on this meeting?
But because we don't have a bidder yet. We have to get a bidder in place and a contract in place for the board to execute.
Oh, I'm sorry, I skipped a step.
Yep.
Or I was putting more pressure on you to get a bid.
Yeah. That'd be a miracle if we pull that off, so.
Okay. Anything else you got for us, Michael?
That's it for today. Thank you so much. That's it. Good work, guys.
Well, thank you guys.
Yeah, great. Great work.
Any other board members have anything to go to the cause? Hearing none, I entertain a motion to adjourn. Make a motion to adjourn. The first. Second, all right. All those in favor, state it by saying aye.
Aye.
Perfect copy of ours.
Same side.
Thanks for coming down and spending the time. I appreciate it, so.
Thank you, guys.
We provide shredding services if you need them.
There you go.
Thank you. Sorry for the.
Yeah. It's good, that's, it's a good job.